I want to ask if something else concerns the two of you. I read this morning that it was recovered in Ukraine, a Shahed autonomous drone. These are drones that the Iranian government manufactures and provides to Russia that are used in the Ukraine theater. And what they found on there was that there was a Nvidia processor. Nvidia is a Western company, tech company. They're known for being advanced on their AI development. And basically that this drone, this AI had autonomous capabilities, meaning you could completely jam it, cut off any GPS communications to satellites, and this thing would think for itself, deciding when and where to go and what to do. Is that a bigger, because that is here with us, it's being used actively in warfare, is that a bigger concern than a nuclear armed ballistic missile or a re-entry missile of some kind, something like this that would have a tactical nuke on it? Is that
You mean a drone with a nuke?
A drone with a nuke, or a drone with, exactly. Yeah. A drone that is a autonomous drone.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
This is fascinating. I mean, this is now, they now have these drones that are thinking for themselves in Ukraine, because they're anticipating that they can't communicate with whatever.
Yeah. To put a nuclear weapon onto a drone, you have to have the nuclear weapon, which is just the circular discussion of why.
Which the Russians have.
Right, but the Russians, I don't see putting a nuclear weapon on a drone.
No, but if the Iranians put a radiological bomb, a dirty bomb.
The Iranians, that's a different story.
Right,
yes,
right.
This is a big fear.
This is an Iranian-made drone using an American microprocessor with Chinese anti-GPS, jamming technology. I mean, it was fascinating. This thing is an autonomous flying computer that can just think for itself and decide in the moment, okay, I'm going to do this instead of that. There is no more real-life human feedback or control mechanism.
I think there's two really fascinating things about your question, right? The first is that you just described a drone that was a bastard child of Chinese, Iranian, and Russian tech.
And American tech, and Nvidia.
Stolen.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Stolen American tech.
Yeah.
But my point is, when we think about the future landscape, that's a perfect example of this rising power in the East, this collaboration in the East that is not based on ideology, because those three countries have nothing in common ideologically, but they have so much in common pragmatically with the idea of combating the West. So that's the first thing that was really interesting to me. Now, the second thing, this idea of an AI-driven weapon. I am going to be wildly unpopular, I promise you, by all the sci-fi geeks out there. I think that AI-powered weapons are the next logical evolution and a good evolution for us, because I would rather trust an AI that's been programmed appropriately with the rules of warfare and what's properly engagement law and all. I would trust that over an 18-year-old with a gun who's been indoctrinated by the American crazy shit that we do to get people ready for war. I would much rather have some AI device that can't be altered except by its own logical processing.
If the AI becomes self-aware and it's preserving itself and can't, so if
that's a huge if.
Yeah, that's way down the line.
But there's a lot of ifs that have now faster than I realize are coming to fruition. But that's the other concern, right?
A self-aware
singularity, right?
Right, a singularity that becomes hell-bent on its own preservation, right? Which, again, those are two big ifs: the singularity and then preservation, its own self-preservation.
If an AI-driven drone is meant to target a specific enemy, and it is noticing that it is being targeted, it'll try to avoid being shot at or taken down, right?
It'll have countermeasures.
Okay, and if it does so, if it has to make the choice of, let's say, detonating or going into a civilian area and risking harm to a civilian population that is contrary to its mission objective, but to do so would preserve its capabilities, it wouldn't do that? That's what I'm wondering.
I mean, where you're getting into that self-awareness.
That's what, right? If its
what would most likely happen is an AI device like what you're describing would be programmed with a mission set. It would come under fire. It would use its own best judgment for countermeasures. If those countermeasures were ineffective and it was starting to go down, the next priority that it would have would be to eradicate anything that's intellectual property that it has on board.
Got it.
So that's something that we don't currently have. That's why it's so dangerous when a B-2 gets shot down overseas.
Right, because
everything.
And also those systems, from what I understand, are no longer going to be single Predator drones, single Reaper drones. They are drone swarms.
Yeah.
And so they work, which is its own set of terrifying.
Right, drone swarms and kamikaze drone swarms, no less at that, where they're designed to be destroyed, to hit their target and not come back.
The day that we see AI-driven weapons is, I think, a day that most veterans are probably looking forward to. Because if you've seen the horrors of war, if you've lost a friend, if you've worn a fucking medal for shooting other people, like it's a horrible, horrible thing.
Understood.
But how does that change the friction of going to war? Because it makes going to war much easier, right?
It does. It
And
absolutely
much more
does.
digestible.
And that's, I think, part of why we're seeing this appetite for conflict moving forward, right? I think we would be doing a disservice if we didn't talk about the complacency of the world in accepting this rapid evolution of conflict.
What do you mean the complacency of the world?
We're all just sitting here watching it happen. It's almost, in a sick way, I think there are people watching the news in anticipation of the next conflict. It's almost turned into a giant NASCAR race. What's the next thing that's going to happen? The horse race effect that you were talking about. We want to know what are the body counts. We want to know who's winning. We want to know what's the newest weapon. It's become almost a
Reality
game.
TV.
Well, it made me, when you were speaking of the war game that you designed, and you were talking about two trolls in a bar, it's like, that's
That's my band name, by the way.
okay. But it's literal and it's figurative and it's narrative. So it's very interesting to me. And it's terrifying because it really does speak to what you just said, where the body count from far away on television is not the same thing as the horror of the person experiencing it.
Indeed.